Welcome back to Online Darts. We're here at the O2 and it's time for our bi-monthly catch-up, as it seems, Matt. Been a while since Butlins at Minehead. First of all, Premier League as a whole, how would you sum it up?
I think he's given us plenty of entertainment. You know, there's been some shocks and surprises. Probably nobody expected Peter to struggle like he did. I thought Johnny and Nathan took it right down to the wire and that made it very exciting. And I think, you know, to be fair to Chris, I thought he did better than his, you know, if you just looked at the league table, you'd say, oh, maybe Chris struggled. But actually, I don't think he did. You know, I think his performances were really good. He came out on the wrong end of a couple of tight results and he had a couple of really decent nights. So I think he was very respectable for his first night. But, you know, then the other three guys who've made it through are probably what you'd call the big three and what you'd expect.
On that big three, last week almost caused us an issue here with Michael's injury. We got through the whole 15 without a drama, and then Michael getting injured, but he seems all right now. Yeah,
apparently so. You know, he obviously sat out the exhibition he had on Friday, played a bit of Players' Championship at the weekend, and has had 2 or 3 days of physio. So I think he'll be fine tonight. As you say, it would have been good to have got through all 16 weeks without a bye and without any players missing a game. But you can't have everything in life, can you?
Look, on the Premier League, obviously, I know you read social media, and there's plenty of things. I'm just going to some myths and some non-myths with you.
Go on, yeah.
A lot about the viewing numbers. Are the numbers that are being touted around correct, and are they massively down this year compared to last year?
They're not massively down, no. I mean, some people are quick to interpret figures without looking deeper into them. You know, there's a lot of things to bear in mind with Premier League darts. Number one is when it's on a Thursday, sometimes it's up against Europa League football, which when you've got teams like Manchester United in the Europa League are going to draw big TV audiences. We've also this year unluckily had Premier League football on Thursdays, which is almost unheard of, you know. So sometimes you're up against way bigger properties and you can't do anything about that. You know, you could put anything up against Premier League football, it's going to take viewers away from it. But then on nights where we've had competitions like the Rugby League, Super League or golf, we've absolutely smashed them in the ratings. So I've got no qualms with where we are. Sky are very happy with where it all is. Globally we're doing very well. So people are very quick to look at numbers in isolation rather than take the whole picture. Tickets
as well. The arenas have looked superb this year. I'm just from what I've seen visually, are ticket numbers up this year compared to last?
I mean they are, but there's not a lot of places they can go because we're over 95% capacity, and in many venues we're at 100% capacity. So there isn't really, other than going to bigger venues, and if you know of any, please give me a shout because we're looking for them. But there isn't really much else we can do with tickets. You know, look, venues like here, the O2, which is enormous, the Manchester Arena, which is enormous, the upper tiers don't always sell out. I don't really mind that. I've said that before because, to be honest, being in the upper tier at Premier League darts perhaps isn't the experience that it is if you're down on the floor. In the lower tier, you're a long way. You're looking down on the show. You're a long way from it, and it doesn't perhaps give you that engagement that you would get elsewhere. So if we don't sell a few upper tier tickets, then we don't really lose any sleep over that. You know, you've seen visually on TV and being in the arenas yourself how good they've looked, and I think the atmospheres have been fantastic.
Oh, completely. I'd say for the fan in the venue, it's worked. On that fan in the venue experience, has there been any discussion on next year's format? Because it's still being spoken about now.
It's a bit early. You know, I mean, I'm probably a bit bored of saying that the Premier League format's evolved every 2 or 3 years over the 17 years of its life. So it'll evolve again, whether that's next year, the year after that. We haven't made a decision yet, but we'll look at everything. We'll speak to all our important commercial partners. We'll try and take a view on what the fans in the arenas and the fans who are watching on TV are saying. It's very easy for people just to write a lazy tweet. You know, you don't get many. It's much easier to write "I don't like this" than to write "I do like this." You know, so we're very conscious of that, and social media is like that in every world, isn't it? But in the same vein, we don't want the product to get boring or turn people off. So we'll always take views into consideration.
Absolutely. UK Open, we saw every board streamed for the first time. Have you had any data back around that? Were the numbers good as you expected or better?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're not going to get tens of thousands of people watching Board 7 on a Friday afternoon, but it's not really there for that benefit. I think I've talked to you before about the need to service different audiences differently. You know, with the committed darts fans, people who are going to watch Board 7 on a Friday afternoon, or people who are going to follow the development tour and the challenge tour, then they're genuinely interested in that. We're under no illusions that the casual fan in the street who enjoys Ali Pali in the Premier League, they're not really too bothered about watching a Riley's qualifier against the guy who qualified off the challenge tour. And I don't really blame them for that, because it's not their thing. You know, they want to see the big players playing in the big matches at the big events. So we have to service different audiences differently. And our expansion of streaming with 4 boards on the Players' Championships and all 8 boards at the UK Open is part of our way of giving more content to our dedicated fans.
Yeah, no, I think it's been brilliant. And on that, did the way the UK Open went so well, was that almost accelerated those extra 2 boards?
Definitely, yeah. That proved to us that we could do more than 2 boards. It proved to us that we had the tech, that our technology partners were able to do it, that our website partners, had robust enough platforms to accommodate it. So yeah, that was, had that not gone so well, then I doubt we'd be doing 4 boards now.
On the UK Open as well, moving forward to next year, the qualifying structure and criteria has been brought up already quite a lot, and we've spoken about it as well. There's places for the Dev Tour and the Challenge Tour next year. Could we see places for the Women's Series as well, to bring it in line with the other affiliate tours perhaps? I
think at the moment what we're struggling to do is fit more players in with the time that we've got. You know, don't forget in the Women's Series, women players have the opportunity to qualify through the Dev Tour, the Challenge Tour, or indeed the Pro Tour. So they're not being excluded from it, you know, but it's going to be hard. We'd like to up the number of players in the UK Open overall, but we haven't got the infrastructure at the venue all the time to do that particularly. You know, we don't really want to be starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. We don't really want to be playing till 1 o'clock in the morning. So we're kind of a little bit, restricted by that. But in the same vein, I don't think it weakens the product. I don't think you'd necessarily say there's a lot of players out there who would make the event better by including them. You know, with the greatest respect to those players, you're only going to be filling from the bottom.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, if we had the opportunity to expand the UK Open, then it may be one that we'd take.
On the UK Open as well, with the Riley's qualifiers, will we be in a position in the near future perhaps not to have the Rileys but qualifiers, but those positions are filled by the associated tours from the PDC?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, we still like the idea of the FA Cup of Darts, which was the original UK Open moniker. You know, we like the idea of people being able to walk in off the street, pay their entry fee, and try and qualify for it, because that's the David and Goliath scenario that really only the UK Open can deliver. If we restrict it exclusively to our affiliate tours, then we're kind of closing the door to a lot of those people, and we don't really want to do that, but there might be a way of blending the two.
Yeah, no, it's just an interesting one. New York on the horizon, back at Madison Square Garden. Are you excited to be back, and have you noticed a progression in the States from last year to where we are now? Yeah,
I mean, we've sold more tickets than we had done by this time last year. Not millions more, but a noticeable number more. It's interesting that the sales are for the Saturday night, so people are looking to see the finals, the big players and everything like that. So it's our job to make sure that we can push the other 2 sessions as well, including the NADC. But definitely the appetite within the American darts community, you know, last year proved the concept to them. This year they've all bought into it, and I think wider than that as well, we've tried to appeal to casual sports fans in and around New York and the northeastern states, and time will tell in 2 weeks whether we've been successful in doing that or not.
Off the back of that, Poland sold out in record time. You have to be delighted with the way that's just gone off the chart.
Yeah, I was delighted, but also devastated that the venue wasn't bigger, because you know, with no marketing and very little fanfare or publicity, we just announced the event, sold it out in 3 hours. And I think, you know, Poland's a big country and a big darts country. There's a lot of players beneath, you know, there's more than just Krzysztof Ratajski in Poland, you know, and Krzysztof, the email I got from him, he was so excited when he heard that event is taking place, and I know he can't wait to take part in it, because for all these guys who spend their lives having to get on aeroplanes to play in our events, for them to be able to then do so in front of their home fans must be such a buzz. So I'm sure he's looking forward to it, and we're really looking forward to it, because as you say, just to sell it out 9,000, 10,000 tickets in 3 hours just shows you the appetite for darts in Poland.
On the rest of the World Series, we've obviously lost one of the events in Australia.
Yeah.
this year. Is that kind of the way it's evolving down there, that we've been, as darts has been there for so long now, where maybe it is developed, and are you looking at new territories to take the World Series 2 off that?
I mean, we've always thought that the optimum number of World Series events is 6 to 8. You know, 6 we can comfortably fit in. If we fitted 8 in, we would be really struggling for time. You know, you've seen the calendar. It would be very tight. We could do it, but it would be very, very tight. So we're kind of comfortable with 6. Our broadcasters know they're getting 6. You know, and we have to take into consideration new territories, Poland, you know, if we go back to doing anything in Asia. So we don't really want to concentrate necessarily too much in one area. The Wollongong event is sensational. You know, the atmosphere there last year was incredible. The Townsville event was rubbish. There was no crowd, and it just didn't work for whatever reason. Sometimes you have to hold your hands up and say, this just hasn't worked. You know, no disrespect to the venue there. It was a nice venue. It was a lovely town. We stayed in a nice hotel, but it just didn't work. So there's no point going back there. Hamilton has worked. This will be the 3rd time we'll have been to Hamilton, pre and post COVID. Ticket sales are strong in New Zealand. But if we're only going to be in New Zealand for 1 week a year, do we want to be in Hamilton forever? That's something we have to consider as well, because we need to service the audience all across that country. And like Poland, New Zealand's a massive country as well. You know, we get stuck in this little Englander mentality, but actually, you know, New Zealand is huge. You know, to fly from one end of it to the other is way bigger than to get in your car and drive to the north of England. So we can't underestimate the need and the importance of us spreading these events around.
On the World Series, I know it comes up a lot when we do our live streams and that, and I spoke to the guys from the CDC and they said, ask you in a smirky way, are we close to getting a double header in North America, like Canada or something?
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, we'd like that. I mean, look, we know, and I don't want to upset the American players, but generally the Canadian players get better results. Yeah. You know, over history has shown that. So we know that the appetite for darts in Canada is strong, and we'd love to do an event there. So that's something that's definitely on our radar.
Close to happening, 2024?
No, probably not 2024. No, I would say that's probably too early. But it's only because logistically these things take a lot of time to sort out. Venues get booked up a year or 2 in advance. You need to get all your production in place, your local partners in place. You don't really want to be selling to. You know, we were very nervous about going on sale with Poland at 3 months out before the event. If that had flopped, we'd have had no time to have saved that event whatsoever. You know, we'd have been going over to Warsaw to play in front of 500 people, and it would have cost us a huge amount of money that we could have invested better in darts. You know, but by selling out, we're going to be able to produce revenue that we can reinvest in the product and grow the sport in Poland. And it's the same in Canada. You know, if we're going to go into that country or anywhere new, we need to make sure we give it the right amount of time to promote it and make sure we can get enough people through the door and watching on TV.
Obviously, at the end of the tax year has just come up and everyone looks at it, and title sponsors Kazoo posted record losses. As an organisation, are you concerned that one of your major partners is posting that bigger loss, considering they sponsor so much of the tour?
No, I mean, look, Kazoo are a good partner of ours. They've sponsored a number of events over the last few years, as you've seen. They're up to date with all their payments with us. Their business is their business. I'm sure they know what they're doing in the car retail market. I have no idea how to sell a car, so I won't be commenting on it.
That's fair enough. Euro Tour. Big announcements for new places. Obviously, we're going to go to Switzerland and another one in Belgium. The boom in Belgium has been sensational. That Euro Tour was just breathtaking to watch. You must be pleased that that's now a hotbed. But with those 2 new ones, do we know what events are going to be sacrificed for them yet?
I would imagine there will just be fewer events in Germany. You know, I mean, it does make me laugh when everybody says there should be 13 events in 13 countries. It's like, it's that easy, is it? Yeah. It's that easy. You go and do it if it's that easy, you know. But Germany's a big country as well, and there's a huge appetite for darts there. We don't want to take that away from it, but in the same vein, we need to spread it. So the model of doing 1, maximum 2 events in countries works for developing darts in those countries, and then when they're more established, there may be a scope to stage more there. But yeah, it would just be a case of saying, look, the 13 events, can we squeeze it to 14? Again, maybe look at the calendar. But if not, then there would just be 1 event less in Germany.
The production has obviously gone to Viaplay on TV, and again, watching it's looked brilliant. Have you had good feedback?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing the production so through our Dutch partners, Keytown, who are excellent. They've done European Tour streaming from day 1, and when the streaming goes down, it's not their fault. It's somewhere else in the system. You know, that's how it works. It is. Well, you know, sometimes sometimes somebody presses the wrong button, or someone's satellite falls over, or whatever, and these things happen, and people get very upset. But it's an accident, you know. I mean, we're really pleased with it. I go to the odd event, but I watch most of it from home, and I think the production is extremely watchable. I think it's a great product. It's got its own cult following, you know, led by its grandmaster Dan Dawson, and you know, it's a tour that's something we're really proud of, to have built it up from nothing over the last decade.
Is the next stage of that production to have presenters and like that? I know obviously it's first time on TV in the UK through Viaplay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the challenge is, and I don't like this when we go to Premier League nights and other events in other countries. I don't like it when we've got English presenters on stage talking English and the crowd's all German or Dutch or whatever. I don't think that's right. You know, unfortunately at the moment, there's not a lot we can do about that. But it doesn't work from an event perspective. You know, the crowd goes quiet, they don't understand what's happening. You know, obviously a lot of them speak English, but it's a lot more difficult to hear something through a great big PA system and then translate it, understand it, etc., etc. So that isn't something I want to do. So if we had a presenter, would it make a huge amount of difference? If you're trying to fit in 8 matches in 4 hours anyway, with ad breaks, with walk-ons, there isn't a huge amount of spare time. You know, we managed to fit in the quick questions, the quick-fire flash interviews after each match, but we don't generally have a lot of time to play in features or other stuff like that. So you could have a presenter, but I don't think it would, at this stage, necessarily enhance the product significantly.
Any news on the visa issues from Corey Cadby or Christian Perez?
No, I mean, it's a bit disappointing really that we've not seen either of them yet. You know, nearly 6 months after securing their tour cards. To be honest, Christian Perez we haven't really heard anything from, and Corey Cadby, through his manager, I know his manager Mac is trying extremely hard to get him the visa. It's just going through the process, so I don't know. Yeah, it's a shame that, because I feel like at the moment it's two wasted spaces. Have
you not been able to help in any way with the government?
We don't have that level of influence, you know. I mean, it just doesn't really work like that. You know, they go through the process and they get dealt with as and when they get dealt with. We've submitted supporting documentation where required, and the DRA are actually, as our governing body, are the ones who are responsible for that. They have a relationship with the Home Office, but it's not a question of picking up the phone and going, "You couldn't process these today for us, could you?"
No,
you know, it's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Off of them not being able to play, and like you say, at the moment it's two wasted spots on the tour, and we've seen it a few years ago with, I think, Royd and Lamb as well. Are we getting to maybe a situation where you're going to introduce something where if players don't play,
I think we're maybe going to have to,
a certain amount of roles, then you can take that tour card back and make use of it?
We've talked about it. We don't want to say we wouldn't want to put an arbitrary number like 16 or something like that in, because someone could fall under, they could break their arm and only play 14 or whatever, but I think you should certainly have to play one. You know, so that's something we're going to look at.
Yeah, because it's come up a few times now, so it was an interesting one. Venues, I know you've spoken about this a lot, and have you found anywhere in Ireland yet to go back?
We've got a list. We've got a list. Yeah. I mean, you know, we'll work our way through that. There aren't many venues in Ireland.
I know that.
You know, there just aren't. But we have got a list of sorts. So we'll see how that goes.
So fingers crossed, the Irish fans may get the Grand Prix back.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, look, I hope that we're able to take our darts back to Ireland more than one day a year. You know, like we're doing at the 3 Arena. So let's see what time brings.
The Civic is open. I know when we spoke last year, you were planning to go and visit it. Have you had a look at it?
Yeah, I've had a look at it, and we won't be going back there. We'll be staying at the Aldersley for the Grand Slam. We feel the Aldersley is actually a more suitable venue for the event now. We can accommodate more people at tables, which is what the crowd want. And we're speaking regularly to Wolverhampton City Council. They're putting a lot of investment into that venue. They're looking to upgrade it. They're looking to have us as part of that. So we've got a very strong relationship with them. They love having the Grand Slam. They know it's good for the profile of the city, and we know it's the right city to host that event. So we feel that the Aldersley is going to be the place for it to be. The Civic is now being run by a third party, and they've got priorities about music and comedy and stuff like that. So don't forget, we would have to go in there for 12 or 13 days, which is difficult when you could probably accommodate 5 or 6 different gigs in that time. You know, but the Aldersley, with the improvements that are looking to be made there over the next couple of years, we feel could be a really top venue.
So Civic done for PDC darts at the end of that chapter?
Certainly at the moment we're not looking to take the Grand Slam back there, no.
Challenge Tour and Q School, obviously I know that you're always thinking so far in advance. Is there any plans to change Q School and use the Challenge Tour more for cards, or is it going to be much of the same?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't, to be honest, we haven't gone far enough down that discussion yet. You know, we like to evaluate things towards the third quarter of the year when we've seen how the first half of the year's gone and still giving ourselves much more time to look at it before the end of the year. So that's probably one for our next bi-monthly chat.
on the Challenge Tour, obviously, you still see the players are moaning and everything like that about the 2 events in a day. And I know that you laugh.
Sorry, Jenks.
To be fair, Jenks hasn't been the only one. There was a lot. But is there any plans to change that and try and just go to one, or is it set that that's the way the Challenge Tour works?
We want to do 24 Challenge Tour events.
Yeah.
We don't have 24 days to do 24 Challenge Tour events. You're welcome to only enter one if it's difficult. You know, I don't hear a lot of other players moaning. I hear some players moaning, but I don't hear the guys necessarily who are winning a lot of money moaning. The guys who are qualifying for events who are on the top up list. You know. The formats are never going to suit everybody. It's not ideal to play 2 events in one day. But also, by the way, 10 years ago, we didn't even have a Challenge Tour. And guess what? We don't even have to have a Challenge Tour now. So what do you want us to do? Scrap it because it's not perfect? You know, doing 2 events in one day and the 5 events over the weekend. If you're a Challenge Tour player, by and large, you are not a professional full-time dart player. You've got another profession and you do other things to supplement your income, because with the greatest respect to the Challenge Tour, it's not going to pay you enough money to live your life, right? So you have to go and earn money elsewhere. So if the Challenge Tour all of a sudden became 12 weekends a year, look at the expense, the cost of living expense that would double in terms of time off work, travel, accommodation, food and drink, all of that sort of stuff. The cost of playing on the Challenge Tour would go through the roof. By doing it like this, we're condensing it to the 6 weekends per year, 5 weekends a year, whatever it is, and giving people the opportunity. Also, don't forget, a lot of Challenge Tour players also play on the development tour. So those weekends can't be at the same time. You know, a lot of the Challenge Tour players also play on the Pro Tour. So those weekends can't be on the same time. They can be on the same time as the European Tour, but there just isn't enough time in the year. Even if we decided it was 100% what we want to do, and it isn't at the moment, there isn't enough time. And I don't think anybody would say, yeah, let's cut the number of events.
No, I agree.
So,
2024 calendar. Normally you try and get it out around September time.
I think we'll be earlier than that this year, to be honest. I think we'll be earlier. Yeah, I'd hope to have it out maybe before around match play time, something like that.
Any new surprises on there for us?
Not really. I mean, we've told you about the European Tour.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Sorry.
Damn.
Boring old PDC, eh?
Yeah, you know, boring. You touched on it, the match play is on the horizon, and ticket sales were just
amazing. Every single session of the World Match Play sold out, and not even only just now, like 2 months ago. It's unbelievable. Fair play to Jimmy in particular in our office, who looks after all our online marketing. It was an unbelievable effort. And the women's match play is selling really well as well, which is great. So I just think the appetite for fans to go to Blackpool and enjoy that week is there for all to see.
That was next on my list, was the evolution of the women's match play. So ticket sales are very good for the Sunday as well. The women's series itself, watching it, I think it's plain to see that the standard has massively risen.
Yeah, as we said it would.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, the 8 that obviously get there this year, fabulous. There's going to be some big names miss out by the look of it. With the standard the way it's gone, next year, potentially, could we see a double session and it go to 16?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, you know, again, it's something that wouldn't be entirely our decision. It's something we'd have to discuss with the venue, with Sky, with the sponsors. But, you know, as the standard of the women's game continues to grow, we want to give more opportunities to women players, you know, and the main aim always has been and always will be to funnel them into the main system, because that is a massive, massive asset for our sport, and one we mustn't lose sight of. But if in the same way we can give more opportunities to women players within their own system, then we can try and do that as well.
One name on the Dev Tour, or 2 names, or the one that's jumped out, is obviously Luke Littler. Couldn't go to Q School because his birthday just fell the wrong side, and we've seen him going off and playing in things like the Super Series and the Dev Tour, and absolutely
doing really well.
And a lot of people putting that tag on him as the next big thing and possible generational talent. It must fill you with confidence that the game is in such a good place that we're seeing 16-year-olds just at that maturity.
Yeah,
at that level.
Look, 100%. But in the same vein, I don't want to be putting pressure on this boy. I don't want people to be turning around to him and saying, you're going to be the next world champion, because that is not going to be good for him now. You know, he just needs to play his darts. He needs to have good people around him who are looking after him, who are not telling him he's going to be the next Michael Smith or Michael Van Gerwen, who are not heaping pressure on him to win money and do this, that and the other. You know, he needs to have people around him who are there to support him and let him play his game. With respect, I've seen plenty of people talk about 16-year-olds, or plenty of 16-year-olds being talked about as future world champions. Not many of them ever go on and do it. And it's way, way, way too early, particularly in a sport like darts where you can have a 30 or 40-year professional career. It's way too early to be labelling someone at that age. I mean, look at Michael Van Gerwen, what he was like at, you know, 15, 16, whatever it was, and then did nothing for 10 years, you know? So I think you know, the important thing for Luke is that everyone around him takes that pressure away from him, not piles it onto him. And also, to be honest, I'm in regular contact with Darren Barson from the JDC, and I know that there's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 other Luke Littlers out there, because he tells me every time someone does a 9-darter or gets 105 average, he sends me a text, tells me about the conveyor belt, and I know all about it, and it's you know, it's fantastic. It's the way we wanted the sport to go when we brought in the development tour and when we started partnering with Steve Brown and the JDC.
Westwood Nyman returned to competitive action as well after his suspension and won on the development tour. Does that show that the system works in rehabilitating players?
Well, it does if he doesn't do it again.
Well, correct, yeah. But was there apprehension about him coming back and playing in PDC?
No, I mean, look,
well?
you know, ultimately, justice is justice, and that system serves its purpose. You know, if somebody commits an offence, they get a penalty, they serve the penalty, and then things move on. You know, the key for us is to make sure, us being the wider world, PDC, PDPA, DRA, WDF, Modus, ADC, whoever, the key is to make sure that player education is out there, the players understand what they should and shouldn't do, the players who do offend, once they've been dealt with, don't re-offend, you know, but then you have to move on in the same way as if somebody, you know, commits a crime in life and goes to jail. Once they get let out, things move on, you know. So for us, it's about making sure the education's in place and making sure that, you know, there's no re-offending once somebody has been dealt with by the system.
You mentioned the ADC there, and I'm sure Steve Brown's always in your ear about it, like he was the JDC as well. Have you kept an eye on the ADC and how they're developing and trying to grow the amateur game? Because I know you've always said that you want the amateur game to flourish.
Yeah, we are, and we do, and I think they're doing, you know, a good job in, you know, in their own space, and in the same way, you know, we know what's happening in the Modus Super Series. You know, that all that sort of stuff provides great opportunities for players who are not 100% within our system, i.e. not tour card holders, to play competitive darts, and that will only improve their standard.
You're looking to work with other organisations in the future if they can sustain that?
Maybe it's not, you know, I mean, nothing compelling has hit us yet, shall we say? But we've always been very open with people and said the door would always be ajar.
Matt, it's a pleasure as always.
Thanks,
we'll let you
Phil.
get on, obviously.
No problem.
The finals are going to start soon, so yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.